Good morning, boys and girls. Hope you've had a great week. The weather is getting just a little bit cooler, so it feels like fall. Don't forget to talk to your parents and ask them about October 25th. We're going to have a drive-by at church, but we're going to have some special activities. And you can wear your costumes if you want, because I'm going to wear my night costume. And Miss Lindy's going to wear a night costume too. And Mr. Christian's going to be here, and I'm going to leave his costume as a surprise. But you can come, and it's 4 to 5 on a Sunday afternoon, October 25th, and we're going to have some games and activities and a story time, and we're going to be outside. So make sure you come. Last week, we were talking about Abram and the stars, and I wore my star pin today to help us remember. Remember that God said to what, Abram? That you will have as many descendants as the stars. Can you count the stars? No, there's so many. Well, Abram is still wondering. You know, that's our favorite word. We're always wondering. Abram is still wondering, well, God said I was going to have descendants, and I'm getting old. I mean, Abram was old, like close to 100, and his wife too. They're getting old. How are they going to have children? They're too old to have children. But they still have faith. They still have faith in God. I'll tell you a story that happened. And you remember that God keeps visiting and talking to Abram. And sometimes we don't know when God comes. This story is about 3 people who visit Abram, and he doesn't realize that it's God's presence that's also visiting him. So I'm reading from our Bible storybook. And we're in Genesis, still the beginning. Genesis is the beginning book of the Bible. And we're in chapter 18. Okay, it's a hot summer afternoon, and Abram is sitting outside his tent, sort of like I'm sitting right now. 3 men walked up to him, and Abram said, "Hello, how are you?" Now, in this time, in Abraham's time, boys and girls, it is appropriate and polite to welcome them to sit down and have a meal and even spend the night. That was what was expected, even if you didn't know the person. That was the culture at that time. Wow, how about that? So Abram welcomed them, and the men sat down, and Abram told his wife Sarah to make a meal. So the men were eating, and they may have put, here's snacks like we eat, some fruit, some Cheez-Its, some applesauce, water, or some lemonade, something like that, and Sarah made a meal. Now, it was the custom also that the women didn't sit with the men when they ate, especially if you had visitors that you didn't know. So Sarah went back into the tent. So Abraham and the 3 visitors are sitting out there talking. And they said, "Where'd your wife go?" And he said, "Well, she's in the tent." And one of the visitors said, you know what one of the visitors said? "When we come back by here next year, Sarah's going to have a baby." That's what the visitor said. Right here. Ha! Well, guess what? Boys and girls, get ready to help me. Guess what Sarah did sitting in the tent? She laughed. Can you laugh? Help me laugh. That's what Sarah did. She laughed. She was like, "I'm 100 years old. These people are crazy. I'm not going to be having a baby." She laughed because she knew she was too old to have a baby. But the visitor said, "Don't worry," sort of talked to Sarah like this. "I know why you laugh, Sarah, because nothing is too hard for God. Remember, nothing is too hard for God." And that's where we're going to leave the story. The visitor said, "When we come back this time next year, Sarah will have had a baby." And Sarah laughed, and the visitor said, "I don't know why you're laughing, because you know nothing is too hard for God." At that moment, when those visitors told Sarah she was going to have a baby, and Sarah laughed, like, really? Her faith was like this sand that's going through my fingers. Look, if I open my fingers, it just flows, doesn't it? Her faith began to dwindle like the sand. Unlike the rock. Hold a rock in your hand, and it's hard and it's steadfast. And that's the faith that Sarah needed. At that moment, when she laughed, she had the faith like the sand that dwindles through my fingers. But she remembered because the visitor told her, remember, God can do everything. So Sarah bolstered back up her faith, she and Abraham, and they still began to believe and have faith that what God said would be true. So that's what we have to do, boys and girls. Even sometimes when we begin to lose our little faith, like Sarah did for a little bit, we just have to stop and say, Dear God, help me to trust you and help me to know what you say is true. And that's what we have to do. We have to have our faith steadfast and hard like a rock. Sometimes it's hard though, because we all are humans and we all forget sometimes. But just like Sarah, but we can remember to ask God to help us. Because what? Nothing is too hard for God. Boys and girls, I hope you have a great weekend, and I can't wait to see you on the 25th. Take care, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.